How did you find Moldova since you came here?
Moldova is a lovely country. I've been here many times before in earlier capacities, working in this on this region, working with these, working with Moldova's with the EU-Moldova relations and with the Transnistrian conflict. So it's not a new country. I feel very good in Moldova. Let's start by that, and so does my wife. We were talking about this over the weekend. The people are lovely. The food is very good. The wines are excellent. There's a lot of work though, and that's basically because the relationship between the EU and the Republic of Moldova, this relationship is incredibly intense.
That's great to hear. When did you start expressing interest in the Eastern European region, and how have things changed ever since?
I've spent most of my career in this region, in fact, and working with this region. And I realized after the collapse of the Soviet Union in the early 90s, I realized, and somebody also pointed out, that there was very little expertise and very little interest in the region at that time. I mean, we were coming out of a Cold War dynamic, and I think the country where I'm from, in Finland, there was a certain amount of fatigue as well in working with crucial relations with the East, and you didn't have enough people who were maybe interested in looking at what are the opportunities, how do we support transformation, how do we sort of look at a new type of Europe. And I got interested in that. So I'd say in a way I've been very privileged of having been somewhat involved from the creation of a new Europe professionally. And if I look at where I worked earlier, I worked for a short time while at the Finnish embassy in Moscow. Then I moved to a country which is now a member of the European Union, Latvia, where I was deputy head of the OSCE mission to Latvia. I also studied the changes in foreign policy dynamics in the region, completed a master's thesis on those. But then after a while I did take a break for 3.5 years and worked in Southeast Asia, and with completely different, as a diplomat, with different questions. But then I decided to come back, applied to be deputy head of the Finnish embassy in Ukraine, in Kiev, and from there then moved as an advisor to then High Representative Javier Solana, and from there I moved to be an advisor to the leadership of the newly established External Action Service, where we're really trying to build a new European foreign policy, a common foreign policy, which brings together all what the EU can do. So, in a way, I'd say that for most of the last 20 years, I've been involved in the region, and I'm very interested in it. It's a region I also love.
This is great to hear, actually. And since you are at the beginning of your term here in Moldova, what are your short and medium term goals here?
My goals are very clear. First of all, I'm here, of course, to support the EU, the intensifying, deepening EU-Moldova relationship. But I'd like to maybe unpack that concept a little bit. Because fundamentally we have a lot of challenges ahead of us, which are related to a transition society. Because we're on a path of European integration through political association and economic integration. That's what the association agreement and the DCFTA are about. So in these are tools to overcome bad practices or the difficult legacies of the past and look at a new, more European type of society. So working on judicial reform, public administration reform, helping a change in political culture from a vested interest dominated culture to a more bottom-up, inclusive political culture which is about societies and about people's ownership of political processes. Strengthening civil society, looking at the business climate, the investment climate, all those sort of issues which are fundamental for a modern society. So those are among those are my priorities, and I want to see that on each and every one of these in the 4 years which my mandate will last, we will be already in a different place when I leave. But there is another priority which is equally as big as this first one, and is very much related to that, and that's working on the Transnistrian conflict and on finding more confidence between the two banks and working towards a sustainable solution which will serve the interests of the residents and inhabitants, citizens of both banks, and bring them more opportunities, both in the kind of society they live and in line with the territorial integrity of Moldova, with special status for Transnistria.
Okay. Some Western diplomats would say that federalization of Moldova would be like a possible solution for this conflict. Do you think this could work? Or yes, no, and why?
I think we often get far too emotional when we talk about whether we call things autonomies or federations or whatever. And I think we need to sort of jump out of that box, get out of that paradigm. You also, if you look around the world, you see different kinds of federations. Some of them, rather large ones nearby, are in fact very centralized states. Then again, you see other federations which are very diluted. You see autonomies which are very strong, and you see autonomies which are basically there only on paper. Now, we need to jump out of talking about these concepts and focus on what works. What is it that works? And I specifically use the term special status because I think what we need to focus on are the win-win solutions which protect the territorial integrity of Moldova and protect the specificities of the constituent parts of Moldova and bring best benefit and the best balance. And I think we need to first decide what we want on the ground, and then what we call it, I think is a secondary issue. So we should not let concepts become excuses stopping us on the way forward.